Hey everybody, I'm Joe DeGanzik and this is Smarter Home Life. These are the Q&A episodes. This is the second episode of the series. There's two usually each month, one covering LED lighting and similar topics, and the other one covering, well, just about everything else, home automation and all the smart home stuff, usually products that are smart and not dumb. But as we all know, smart home products sometimes aren't all that smart anyway. But besides all that, welcome if you're new to the channel. If you're new to these things, I do a little bit of housekeeping and talk about some other things, just to kind of bring everyone up to speed in the beginning of the show. So if you want to skip past, all right, but you really should watch and stay tuned and listen to everything. So the first thing I'd like to do is talk about our wonderful supporters on Patreon. Patreon is this wonderful crowdfunding mechanism and website where people like me, creators, can be supported directly by wonderful people like you who love the content and say, you know what? Yeah, let's give him $1 a month or something like that because he's wonderful. He's doing this, he's making this content, he's making a living doing this, and every little bit counts. And trust me, in this world, every little bit counts. So, some new people. Christian, I hope I'm not going to butcher the name. Christian Scholarup Bergensen, or is it Borgensen? Ray Kaluza, Brian Torpa is new. Let's see, Alan D, let's just say that. I don't want to screw up the name. Are new as well. And you know, everyone is, they get your, you know, you wonder, like, what do I get for $1? What do I get for a couple bucks a month? There are all of the perks and rewards that are listed over at I just can't talk. It's been a long couple of days. Over at patreon.com/smarterhomelife. I call it the Insider Program just for marketing purposes and to kind of make it more fun. But it's Patreon. It's a way for you to support the show and say, you know what? This is great content. I love it. I want to give something back. If 25% of the over 16,000 subscribers gave just $1 a month, it would really be, we would be so well set for the future. It would be awesome. So every little bit counts. There's an entire page as well at smarterhomelife.com/support. So like if you're just doing some Amazon shopping or shopping at Best Buy or one of the other affiliate programs that we're a part of, use the affiliate link, just go back there or bookmark it, use that link, and it helps to support the show when you're already spending money on stuff anyways. So that's, there's a number of different ways that you can help support the show. Every little bit counts. So thank you to all of the wonderful people on Patreon who contribute financially every month to make the show and the website and all the other pieces of Smarter Home Life a success now and on into the future. Well, a 2-second delay in the video was a multi-hour delay due to an Arizona monsoon storm, of which there might be another bunch of storms coming through here, so I wanted to get this started so I could get this wrapped up and recorded. Power outages and all kinds of fun here in the desert Southwest. So continuing on what I was gonna say about the consulting sessions, which were generated by your own emails about people watching these videos earlier in the year. I just want to talk about this for a minute. You started asking me, you know, hey, can I just get your time? I need some one-on-one time with you. I've got a project coming up. I can't make these devices work. And ultimately, there were so many of them, and I've worked with so many of you across the country and across the planet. It's been great fun getting to know a little bit more about you, your projects, what you are doing. If you're connecting with me on your phone, or if I'm on my phone, you can show me around your place and say, oh, this is exactly what I want to get done. And I can be like, oh yeah, this is the solution. I can show you around this place, a little bit behind the scenes here in the Smarter Home Life home studios. Anyways, it's a great service, and the public doesn't get this deal. You get the deal because you're on the Smarter Home Life YouTube channel. You're part of the family. You're watching these videos all the time. Anyways, so if you go to smarterhomelife.com/fan discount and use coupon code SHLFAN, they'll be on the screen somewhere around here. Go to that website. You'll get the ability to get my time on an hourly basis, bypass the predetermined packages, and it'll be $50 an hour. which is the discounted rate compared to what the regular rates are. And it's a great service. I encourage you to take advantage of it. There's a scheduling system there. It'll set the whole thing up. It's pretty slick. If you can't find a time or date that works for you, or if you're on the other side of the world, you need to schedule something specifically, just email me. Same email address, questions or consulting or Joe, they all go to the same, they all go to my email anyways, at smarterhomelife.com, and we'll get that figured out for you. And just to be clear, the Q&As are not going away. That's why I wanted to put these out there right away after I started promoting the service. The simple questions are easier to answer over email, and of course I take the most interesting ones that would be of use to a wider audience and place them here on these Q&A episodes. The first question, which was interesting, if you saw the Fairview set of videos, this was done at the Fairview Smart Home. If you ever have a question about whether smart home technology is worth putting into a home and leaving it when you sell it, or if you're doing a flip home or something like that and you've got smart home technology, well, the Phoenix real estate market is pretty hot anyways, but this home sold in about 3 to 4 days. So it was a really beautiful home. They're on the channel. If you haven't watched them, just look up just search for Fairview and you'll find it. It's a three-part series, and I did consultation with the lighting design and also the smart home components with my good friend Jake, who's a real estate investor here. And Philips Lighting worked with us to outfit the entire home with all LED lighting from Philips. So thank you again to them. That was a really great partnership, and the homeowner loves it. So I think it was a really good deal. So the question came in on one of those videos, because I had my title, smart home and lighting consultant. How do you become, and this was a comment, I believe, from Krisham Ray, how do you start being a smart home consultant? I'm really interested. Well, let me answer the question really quick before I go into just a quick version of my story, because I could make a whole video about it, and I probably will here in the next couple weeks or month. There isn't necessarily, you're not going to go to a major university and find like a smart home degree at this point. Even I was checking with Full Sail University, who does a lot of different kind of unique programs and computer programming and animation and media and things like, digital, theater lighting and so forth. This is still a little bit of a specialized industry. You might find it at local trade schools, more kind of, I don't want to say, it could be trade schools, but more technical schools, maybe smaller or specialized colleges in your local area, or community colleges may offer some courses. Obviously, what you're watching right now, YouTube videos are one of the best ways to learn this stuff. You can learn practically anything on YouTube or on the internet, but of course, having hands-on training, having actual tested knowledge is a good thing as well. And for that, the ultimate source at this point really is CEDIA. CEDIA. This is the industry trade group, trade association for everything that's inside home technology, basically everything that's built in. And I'm talking about appliances, I'm talking about whole home audio, I'm talking about home theater, on the high end. We're talking about structured wiring, obviously home automation. This dates back to the old days of home automation, where everything was physical controllers, no wireless, physical, old-fashioned, LCD, not even active matrix, passive matrix, displays with, you really press the touchscreen, AMX and Crestron. So CEDIA dates back a long time. There are, one or two other trade groups as well for kind of more specialized parts of the industry. There's a trade show coming up in early September. I really want to go to that. I don't know if it's going to be in the budget for this year, but probably for next year. CEDIA offers training courses, and they get a little bit expensive once you kind of add them up. If you become a member, you get a little bit of a discount. CEDIA.net, I'll probably put the address on the screen and also in the description. There'll be a link in the video description out to the smarterhomelife.com website, and you can see the various helpful links that are associated with this particular video. So CEDIA.net, lots of training programs from A to Z to actually get real knowledge and then be tested on that knowledge. They also have certifications, different classes of certifications, from networking to all the home electronics, about 4 different classes of certifications depending on what area or specialty you might be in, or that you might choose. that's probably a really good resource. But I would say try to get familiar with some of the technology first before you dive in there, because that's going to be the real nuts and bolt knowledge. And so your next question is probably going to be to me saying, well, Joe, tell us about your certifications. Tell us about your experience. Let me dial this down because I'll make a video of it, but it's too long of a story to share. So I started because of a personal interest, right? There are many people who get into something and do it really well. Some people do it through college and going to school specifically for certain types of degrees or certain trades and professions. And some people just get into it and they work on it so long that they become an expert in it. I've had multiple jobs in my career where I was concerned about, well, is the lack of a college degree going to be a problem? And as you get farther and farther into your career, employers look at you and say, well, you know what you're doing because you've been doing this for so long and you have great references from other employers. So this is what happened with my home automation. I got involved in it because I wanted to have automated lights in my bedroom at home, and I got started when I was in high school. This was in the early 90s. Do the math, you figure out how old I am. And I got started with these guys. This was, the easy. This was the easy route. I'll kind of zoom that onto the screen. Just these Radio Shack plug-in power modules that you had to move these, kind of twist these dials around. The house code and the unit code. You got like about 256 modules that you could use. So that was old technology. X10, which was invented in the 70s. Not really reliable, but for the consumer, because home automation used to be split to kind of like 3 different groups, right? The high end, like the lifestyles of the rich and famous, with Robin Leach. The mid end, which everyone who was a hacker, like a hardware hacker, could put this stuff together and really do some amazing things on kind of a budget, but you had to have that physical know-how. And personally, I've never been about developing my own electronics. It's more about software development for me. And then the lower end, you go and you buy stuff kind of off the shelf, you bring it together through controllers and you do some software development. That's kind of where I was. And so, doing X10, which if you don't have a central controller, it gets really difficult to do automation because you're really just pressing buttons. And the central controllers still have some issues because you can't issue simultaneous commands to really issue scene commands. There are some ways to do it with the more modern X10 command set, and there's a huge, and I don't want to don't come at me with comments saying, oh, you don't like X10. No, X10 for some people is still great. There's a big community behind it. So that's what I started with. And when I went to college, my original goal was I wanted like theatrical based, beautiful scenes with long fade rates and be able to change these things. And you still couldn't do it, but a controller like this is 21, 22 years old now. This is I think I've shown this off before, the JDS Time Commander. So this is an X10 controller that you would then interface back to your computer with an RS-232 connection over a serial port. You would then have the power line interface via RJ11 plugs and an auxiliary interface that you could do things like infrared control and doing some low voltage control as well. So I had this guy. It actually still runs. I lost the power adapter for it and I'd have to get the interface, but it still works. Probably have some hard time finding software to run somewhere you could get it to run on Windows. So I had that set up in my college dorm room to the dismay and the delight both of various people, including my roommate, and I got it to do things like perform like music light shows and things like that, but not really reliable, not perfect, but it was cool. So my home automation started in that world, and it gained I gained the interest in it. I wanted to do it. My family originally thought it was a waste of time and a waste of money. Obviously, I've now turned it into something quite successful. But as time went on, I switched over to Insteon, and then I switched over, obviously in the more modern era, I've switched over into full automation, where in the early days it was easier to do lighting because honestly, most of the places that I've lived in have been rentals. Years ago, when you wanted to automate a thermostat or have some sort of remotely controllable thermostat, they usually had to have a power source, and that would require a special wiring harness, and you can't really do that in a rental, or you got to be very careful and kind of on the sly with that. So The modern era, which of course I wrote an entire piece. If you don't visit smarterhomelife.com, there is written content. There's a lot of long form content, and usually companion articles to all the videos on smarterhomelife.com. So definitely check it out. And there's ways to subscribe there as well. But we owe pretty much quite a bit of our modern smart home world to the iPhone and to smartphones because of the miniaturization of technology. And that's where we get Nest. That's where we get all these different products that are really quite amazing. And of course, battery technology has improved, so sensors are a lot easier. So I started with lighting, and then as we kind of moved into the future, I was able to expand out to all these different devices. The flip side of this, in terms of why I have this incredible breadth and this incredible deep knowledge about all of this stuff, is I read a lot. Obviously, I do a lot of investigation into these technologies, but I was in enterprise IT. I was in early on in my career. I was in technical support in the mid-90s for an ISP, and then I moved into doing professional web development and programming and database administration and enterprise IT. I was IT director for a local regional mortgage company. So I've done the gamut, and I have the programming knowledge, and I have all of this deep knowledge. And then on top of that, there's the home automation side, and they kind of go hand in hand because I can talk the talk and I can speak all of it because I understand the core principles. I understand all the underlying technologies behind all this stuff that we have today. And as I've been told, I'm a pretty good communicator, and I can translate it down to the basics for people. Or, as you've seen on the how-to videos, I can go right into techie speak, and we can do custom device handlers and scripting for smart things and linking up products that normally wouldn't be supported, and there's all of that. So I don't want to go too far into that, but my background is basically trial by fire. I've really been interested in it for a very long time, and I have 20 plus years of working with home automation on some level or another. It even actually extended to doing and I'll save this for another video, lighting and theatrical lighting in my own apartments, and doing like light shows with lasers and fog machines, and I also got into special event lighting with some good friends of mine here in the Phoenix area for some big after parties and so forth with big DJs like Darude and Chris Cox and so forth. So really a very varied career over many years, and today I've kind of taken all of that along with my video production background as well. And today, well, welcome to Smarter Home Life. So like I said, there's two ways to go about it. You can go for the certifications. You can just go into it and just love it and just kind of power through it and learn all you can. All right, moving on. Range extenders. This is a big thing in this modern era that we didn't have to deal with years ago, and people generally don't have to deal with this issue unless you have multi-story homes or very large homes. I know I'm advising a Smarter Home Life viewer right now, someone who is building a rather large home, and this has been definitely one of the topics. They are trying to go as much as without wireless, but they know that they've got to have Wi-Fi for at least things like smartphones and so forth. So interesting stuff. This is from Michael D., who is also a wonderful Patreon supporter and has been for some time, so thank you so much for that. I have a Verizon router in my basement, so multi-story place, where the cable comes into the house. All of my wireless devices are upstairs. It has both 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. Periodically, the 2.4 gigahertz network drops out and requires a reboot to kind of repair the network. I can do this via the computer by going into the setup or just powering off the device. The 5 gigahertz network works flawlessly. Verizon gave me a new router, but the same problem exists. Do you think a range extender or mesh network hardware would fix this problem? So there's question number one. If so, do you have a recommendation? Since it's only the 2.4 gigahertz network that fails, would I need a 2.4 and a 5 gigahertz extender? My single family house is about 2,500 square feet. Some of the range extenders cover 10,000 square feet. Would that interfere with my neighbor who is 40 plus feet away? And a lot of question marks here, but it really is annoying when the 2.4 gigahertz and some of my devices. This is an issue that we, thank you for writing in with your questions. It's a number of these things. I'll try to summarize this, and as with all the questions, I've already responded via email. This is a modern challenge with these wireless networks, and where we are with the smart home. Many of the devices, even that I demo as well, that are Wi-Fi based, especially HomeKit devices, all sit on the 2.4 gigahertz network. This is usually just because they're using older chipsets. They may be trying to get away with some cost. The 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi chipsets are newer, of course. And this is the challenge, that the higher the frequency, the shorter the range. And the lower the frequency, like 2.4 gigahertz, the longer the range, the better penetration you can have through walls and other things. But you don't have the speeds, you don't have some of the reliability with 5 gigahertz. The speeds can be 2x, 3x, 4x, especially with 802.11 AC, which can utilize both the where am I going? The 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. I know I'm using not the brand new one, an older Apple AirPort Extreme. It has both networks. When I'm testing devices and when I'm going into the devices, sometimes I have to go in and switch it to 2.4 gigahertz on my phone before I go in and actually set the device up, or otherwise it has problems. But he's specifically talking about 2.4 gigahertz, and it's an older technology. The fact that it's failing, one of the other issues is 2.4 gigahertz runs into interference. 2.4 gigahertz is the same frequency as Bluetooth. It's the same frequency range as microwave devices, like microwave ovens, and other kind of electronics. You even some portable phones, which I don't know that many people have portable traditional phones anymore, but it's kind of a noisy environment. 5 gigahertz is twice the frequency from 2.4, and there's less issues to deal with, far less issues to deal with in the 5 gigahertz range, and you do get that speed boost. So he's also saying, his home is 2,500 square feet. His router is in the basement. Basements have different construction than first floor and second floor. And I don't know what I most likely already asked him this, but I don't have those details for the original email. Home construction materials can make a difference, whether you're dealing with wood construction, if it's an older, and you've got plaster or some kind of lathe in the walls. Depending on the penetration, even though the 2.4 gigahertz works better than the 5, you still have that issue. And if you're using an older router, or basically a single regular Wi-Fi router, especially one that's just provided by your ISP, it's not necessarily going to be the best. I don't want to knock on any of them and say that, they're just terrible, but they're not going to be built in with, say, like mesh networking. So speaking of that, there are the systems, and I believe he mentioned range extenders. So this has now become, instead of just range extenders, now we've called it mesh networking. And those are the brands like Eero, Netgear, who has the I can never remember the name of the Netgear system. It's Orbi. There's also a brand called Plume, which sells them in 6-packs, and they're focused more on a reliable connection, not necessarily fast speed. So Eero, Netgear, of course, Google got into this with Google Wi-Fi, and the latest entry, of course, is from Samsung, which the Samsung Connect Home includes a SmartThings hub, and it also has the ability to add on wireless range extenders for the Wi-Fi side. And for things like the smart home stuff, like the actual protocols, Z-Wave and Zigbee, those are mesh networks already. But Wi-Fi was never designed as such, so you have to have these repeater devices. For a 2,500 square foot home, I already made this recommendation, but probably you would want to have a total of 2 Wi-Fi devices, like a mesh network, because each one will generally cover, at least 1,200 square feet, probably 15 to 17, if not almost 2,000. But to have great consistent coverage, you want to have that available, because a single point of failure with a single router emitting and receiving Wi-Fi, like he's saying, he's already replaced it, but the Wi-Fi fails, it has problems. No issue with the 5 gigahertz, but he does have issues with the 2.4, which of course, if you run into problems with that Wi-Fi network, it's going to knock out all of your control of any smart home devices that are on Wi-Fi, which for those who are in the HomeKit world, or even if you're on things like Wemo devices and so forth, you're going to run into that issue because most, I don't want to say all of them, but most of these smart home devices that are Wi-Fi based are all in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. And I've received other emails from you guys as well and comments saying, why is this like this? And you have the network name can only be like this and so forth. It's a weird issue. I'm hoping that they move to the 5 gigahertz or give the option for both, but usually, again, it could be a cost cutting issue. The other thing to talk about for these extenders or these mesh networks, they're all going to support 2.4 and 5 gigahertz at the same time. So it'll be kind of like backwards compatible to what you want to set up. They all usually have excellent ratings. There was an article, it was by the Wirecutter. You may wonder why I haven't personally reviewed them. It's really hard to review Wi-Fi mesh devices in a 396 square foot tiny home, which is one of the reasons why the move is going to happen later this year. I'll talk about that at the end of the video. To a larger place, because it's just physically hard to review that stuff. I can go in, and if you want me to produce a video and an article to just repeat the findings from other people, that's fine, but it's not really original content, and I like to really produce original content based on my own actual testing and not just regurgitating what other people have found. But to be honest, if you do some research, and I'll include an article, a link to them, they get really good really good ratings in terms of, I know Netgear is very reliable. Eero basically started this on the consumer trend. Ubiquiti started on the enterprise network side. You can buy their devices. They're a little bit more pricey. They're ultra ridiculously reliable. A very good friend of mine is a local network administrator here for Zona Internet, which is a fiber to the home based company up in the northwest part of town. They use Ubiquiti devices. He raves about that brand, and so the top brands are going to do very well. And I've seen very good reviews as well for the Google Wi-Fi system. Not sure on Plume, and the Samsung Connect products are too new to really have a lot of ratings and reviews coming out, but probably within the next month or two we'll see a lot more reviews coming out on that. So I hope that answers it. I think they're kind of shaped like pucks, kind of like hockey pucks or like Apple TVs or Rokus. I think a 2 device system would really be good for you if you just have a basement and a main level. If you have multiple stories, I would probably say put it on each story or level of the home. If you only have 2 levels, I would put it on both levels at this point to help you get past these issues. And if that doesn't solve it, it means you have something else that's really interfering, and you would want to actually have someone to come out and do a network, kind of a wireless analysis of your home to see where the signals are physically getting blocked, or if there's something else, an appliance or some other device in your home that's just putting out a lot of electrical RF interference that's causing that problem. Especially it would probably be in the 2.4 gigahertz range. So a little kind of technical answer, but this is kind of what it gets down to. There are apps, of course, for phones that will do some of this measurement and testing for you. There are better devices, the really, really professional devices or dedicated devices that will analyze wireless signals and look at your entire home and its the RF that's going through it. But there are some apps that will allow you to pinpoint Wi-Fi problems, and I'll try to include at least one link to one of those in the description. So a little bit long of an answer, but that's kind of what you expect here on these Q&A videos. So again, this is Michael D, who's one of our supporters, a longtime supporter on Patreon. So thank you for that. Thank you for writing in, and I think it was a pretty good question. So on to the next one. So the next question comes from Aaron W. It's an email talking about Bluetooth extenders. Is there a theme going on here? Like, am I hearing an echo in the room? Extenders, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth? I think that's what I'm just going to call this episode. It's the extender episode. It's the extension episode. Love your content, and I'd love to get a consult sometime. He did, and he loved it, and I love working with all of you on these consultations. So thank you so much, Aaron, for the question, and also for being able to help you with your challenges. And it was some unique questions, and I think he really got some good responses and some information out of that. This question is about my new QuickSet premise. Same one. I don't think you can see it. It's back there. I'd have to move the lamp. Of course, I've done a review on it as well. The QuickSet premise is a HomeKit enabled smart lock. So I'll put a link to the review video in the description, and there'll probably be a link up there. So the install went well, and the app works fine. Apple HomeKit will control the lock as long as I'm in Bluetooth range, outside of which is my Apple TV Home Hub. So that's kind of what the HomeKit devices work well with, in terms of you can control them through Bluetooth, through your phone, as long as you're in range. And if you want to be controlling them outside of your home or outside of your local network, you have to have an Apple TV or an iPad that's plugged into power, or coming soon, the HomePod, and they will act as a translator or gateway from inside your home to your outside network. It'll translate Bluetooth to Wi-Fi and get those signals back and forth. And I have an Apple TV. It works. Previously, in previous years, it wasn't so great. It works a lot more reliably now. Generally, Bluetooth says 150 feet, and it's some magical, wonderful, long distance, perfect world number. It doesn't always work out that way. I have one of the Elgato Eve sensors. It's the weather sensor, the Eve weather sensor. It's out in a tree in the backyard. So it's about 40 feet from the Apple TV, which is kind of in front of me, all the way out to the backyard, through a wall, through the fridge to the microwave, and it works pretty reliably. So that's that. He says his lock is not talking to the Apple TV because he thinks that it's out of range. So again, if the lock is too far away, or if it has to go through too many obstacles, just like we talked about with 2.4 gigahertz being a noisy and busy spectrum, again, Bluetooth is in that band. Do I need some kind of extender to make the home automations work? Is there a better solution? And what's been in the news lately over the past couple of weeks with the official rollout using Bluetooth 5, I guess it's really tied to Bluetooth 5, is Bluetooth mesh networking. Now, I've talked about this before the Bluetooth SIG group kind of officially introduced it. iLumi has talked about Bluetooth mesh with their mesh tech networking. And on a couple of the CES wrap-up videos, I talked about ConnectSense and Elgato both creating devices that would be extender devices. Now, those companies specifically were talking about HomeKit. This has been the challenge with Bluetooth. It has been protocol specific or device specific. If you buy a special Bluetooth smart bulb from company A that isn't HomeKit, it just happens to be a color changing light bulb or some other product that uses Bluetooth, you're stuck with that device, with their app, and that's it. And if they have a translation device, such as a bridge or a hub to get you access to that device over your Wi-Fi or over the internet, again, it's proprietary. The same thing is with, say, the August Connect device, which only works, at least now, with August, the August line of products. The doorbell, the the video doorbell. I'm saying the smart lock, and also there is they have that keypad as well. So this is not really good for the industry to keep selling all these separate little devices to communicate with Bluetooth devices and get them access to the internet. Really not a good idea. So Bluetooth Mesh is launching now. They say that it is going to be backwards compatible with both Bluetooth 4 and Bluetooth 5 chipsets, and manufacturers can go ahead and do firmware updates to enable this technology. Now, we've of course heard this before and seen this before. Some manufacturers will choose to simply release new devices, some of the manufacturers will go ahead and update their existing devices, but not necessarily all of them. And it's going to take months to roll out. You're not necessarily going to see this. You might see this for some of the holiday, I don't want to say holiday products, but you might see this for the fall holiday shopping season, but maybe not. You may see this simply with new devices that are announced and launched around the time of CES 2018 in January, because we heard of many announcements that came out in January of this year of products that were supposed to launch in like April, still have not. So this is the challenge, but what they're planning on, this is the other thing, is that Bluetooth mesh networking, beyond Aaron's question about do I need an extender device, kind of like a Wi-Fi extender system like an Eero or multiple pucks around the house. Right now this doesn't exist as a universal standard. Like I said, the ConnectSense and Elgato introduced products at CES, announced them basically. They're not shipping yet. And with announcements from Apple with HomeKit saying that HomeKit is going to be software enabled versus only being hardware enabled now, that throws a wrench into their mix, saying, well, do we finish developing the hardware? Do we just update it with software? What do we do? So again, I'm hoping that these products are going to be out by, say, September, October, but I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. I'm not holding my breath. What we're going to see, though, and this is really exciting, the way that Bluetooth mesh networking does work, as I've been reading some of the papers behind it, is that each device, as a Bluetooth device, will be able to repeat signals. But they will be smart about it, because you would think, of course, battery-operated devices, they're low power. You don't want them repeating all the signals on an entire network, because that doesn't make any sense. But full power devices that might be plugged in, that are Bluetooth, they could of course repeat those signals. And if you did have Bluetooth range extender devices like hubs, those should be able to act as repeaters as well. And it would repeat the Bluetooth signals across devices, across landscapes, in terms of it should repeat HomeKit signals, it should repeat proprietary signals like August and weird light bulbs and so forth that run on Bluetooth only. So this is a huge boost, and like I said, the battery devices might say every couple hours they might pass a signal along in case as they analyze network traffic going across. If a device only needs to be updated every couple hours, or if that's what it sees, it's going to adapt itself automatically. There's a lot of information you can find. I'll put a link out there, but Bluetooth's own website has a lot of details and kind of white papers on this new technology. And I'm glad that they've kind of pushed forward with this, because everyone else was kind of developing their own secret sauce, which again is really not good for open standards. Bluetooth has been great about really bringing the industry together ever since the late 90s and into the early 2000s, when we started seeing earbuds show up in your connection to your car. Just imagine, in terms of, I like to compare it to all the home automation standards these days. Imagine if there had been like 5 or 10 Bluetooth standards, low power radio standards in the early days. Nothing would have worked with anything else. Does that sound familiar in the modern world of home automation? So I am really happy about this. This is really going to be important for the IoT, for the connected home. So Bluetooth mesh networking coming soon to devices that you may already own and to new devices. And to Aaron, unfortunately, you're going to have to keep waiting. I know we've been discussing this over email, and I will try to keep you updated as I see device updates from the manufacturers or timelines, but it's probably going to be sometime into the fall or winter at this point. So stay tuned. Thank you for your question. It was great to work with you on your consulting session, and if you've got follow-ups, obviously, please, I'd be very happy to work with you again. So the next and final question comes from David over email. Hey Joe, love the channel. It has helped me get started on making my home the smarter home. Fantastic. Any way I can help people make their lives easier and more rich via these smart devices or smarter devices I love it. I get your emails and comments every day, and aside from the strange comments sometimes on YouTube videos, mostly are positive, and I love it. So I do have a question. After I watched your home tour, my wife is a nurse and is home with our daughter a lot these days that I leave the house. A lot of days that I leave the house. I use Philips Hue bulbs in the house with a couple of smart outlets, and will be soon setting up a Nest thermostat and with wife approval, a smart door lock and garage opener. That's important. Remember, if you've watched the original Smart Things video, my friend Chris Kurtz, he talked about the wife approval factor or spouse approval factor. Very important to have the spouse approve all of the tech gadgets. But just start slowly and just explain it to them, and they'll see the benefits and they'll get through it. Okay, my question is, how do you suggest or recommend setting it up so that when I leave the house and my wife is there, it's not putting the house in away mode? Do I need to download the apps and replicate the settings for HomeKit onto her iPhone as well so that it knows someone else is in the home? I'm kind of a loss as to handle this. Appreciate any insight you can offer. So, this is a question that happens a lot. Now, there are ways to do this kind of manually or through SmartThings, some additional programming, through some of the other smart home hubs and systems. He didn't mention HomeKit specifically, but HomeKit itself, if you are, and I think I emailed him back, and I think he was happy about it because I think they are in, we talked about the iPhone in the email, so I think they are in the HomeKit world. At least everything else I think that he talked about was probably HomeKit enabled or was going to get there anyways. HomeKit's being opened up to many more devices as we speak. So the good news is iOS 11, and I'm going to be actually releasing a video very shortly on the new stuff in iOS 11 with HomeKit. I want to wait a little bit for some of the betas to come out because I have a secondary device that I can put iOS 11 on, but I still use it for some production, so I can't like brick it. So I'll be using one of the more recent public betas versus one of the developer betas. iOS 11 has some specialized features for home and away mode to understand the users specifically, instead of just the home being vacant or occupied based on location of one user or just in aggregate. Previously, this was impossible. So with HomeKit, how am I going to say this? So again, before it was pretty much in aggregate. You also asked about whether I need to load all this stuff onto your wife's iPhone. When you're both on the same, the same Apple ID, obviously all the data is going to roll over no problem. You can share it to another Apple ID without a problem, and your wife will be able to control everything, at least through Apple's own home app. Doing it through the other apps kind of gets a little bit dicey, but for most people, the automation can happen within the home app, and actually this is where the functionality is going to happen, and Apple will build this in, if it isn't already, in the home app in iOS 11, the betas and so forth. So it will look at the users. You will be able to say, okay, I don't want to enable away mode until all people with active accounts and on iOS devices have physically left the premises based on geolocation. And from what I understand, I need to completely reread the info from the WWDC sessions, but I believe they're going to allow some customization for when someone comes back. If you come back, you may be able to set it to do something different from when, say, your wife comes home, if you come home at different times. This is a challenge, and people do have different preferences of coming home, day or night. Lights come on, music maybe plays. Obviously the music is going to be a feature within iOS 11 with the HomePod and maybe with other devices as well. Actually, I think we know that actually. So there's going to be a number of exciting things coming out, and I'll be able to speak to that more as I release at least one, and if not an additional video or two on the HomeKit features and the home app changes in iOS 11. And as Apple usually tends to push things forward, if other systems are not supporting these natively or easily, they're probably going to wind up supporting it easily, because as we do move into more and more people having smart home technology, and with people having multiple family members, usually your kids, depending on the age, are probably not going to have full iPhones. I mean, they might have them once they turn, kind of like into, once they're in kind of the high school range. But usually it's not as big of a deal earlier on, and they could just come home and press, a controller button or press a button on an iPad or something like that if you're in the HomeKit world. If you're in another world, it's a totally different story, and usually this involves a little bit more programming or a little bit more setup, but it is possible. I'm pretty sure this is possible with SmartThings, and if you would like me to do some sort of how-to video on how to set this up, I'm happy to do it. Of course, I live here by myself, and I'm not a perfect example or a perfect use case, obviously, for a multiple person family or household, because again, you leave, you don't want the lights to turn off if someone else is at home, especially at night. That would just be stupid. So that's the answer for now. We're going to, obviously iOS 11 will launch in September, to the world, and we've got another about, month and a half or so of betas coming out. So I'll be taking a look at that. We'll be posting some videos and some content on smarterhomelife.com. And thank you very much for the question. I hope that answers it. I know I answered you via email, and we talked a little bit more about it, but I thought this would be good. So definitely going to be having some good functionality in the Home app and within HomeKit for the base functionality will enable other HomeKit apps to enable this, but you should be able to do it in the Home app probably right now. So anyways, take a look at the video that comes out in the next couple days on iOS 11 HomeKit, and we'll go from there. All right, so that is pretty much it. I mentioned this briefly, and I just want to address this really quickly because this was about a month ago that this video came out, and I know that some of you were like, what? What's going on? This thing with the move. So I was told at one point about a month ago, say 5 weeks ago, that the property was going to be sold. It was going to be, they were going to be moving out. This is where I am in this small house is on a larger property, and some friends of mine own the property and live in the main home. They are moving. They initially said they were moving and going to sell the place at the end of the summer, as in end of August, which was going to be a very tight timeline. Then I went through and started an entire campaign to get things moving and rolling, and then they decided that they weren't going to move until the end of the year. So now it looks like I started the entire thing for nothing. But the campaign will restart as we get closer to the end of the year. The move is probably going to happen mid-December, as much as I don't want to move during the holidays, but I don't want to move when I don't want to be in the process of trying to move or continue to create content or whatever when they're trying to sell the properties. It doesn't make any sense. So that's what's going to happen. The other part is, again, making everything financially viable in terms of the show. Patreon helps with that. The consulting sessions help with that. So it really does help. I know I say this on all the episodes, and probably very few of you are getting to the end of this one, but I say this all the time, and people probably tune out, or you may not think of it, but every $1, every $2 that comes in through Patreon from a ton of people is really useful. And every time that you use the shopping links, it's really useful. This is what I do as a full-time business, and every little bit counts. Entrepreneurs face, you have to pivot, you have to keep thinking of new ways and new strategies when things don't work. But I do really encourage you to support this content. There's multiple ways to subscribe here on YouTube, at smarterhomelife.com, across social media. There's lots of unique content that comes out, and I encourage you to take advantage of it. And otherwise, that's the end of the show. I'm Joe Deganzik, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.